Well, it's just after 5. Welcome along to Drive Time with Roz, Hour 2 from the heart of Eastgate. I hope you have a great time there. A guest in this hour, Sidra Naeem, a regular meet-up for a chat about all things Islam. And there's always plenty going on in the world of Islam and, of course, in the world of politics at the moment. And you're always busy chatting to radio stations, getting around. You're wearing your badge today, Sidra, which says Chaplain Sidra Naeem. Perhaps you better explain that first.
I've just got back from work, so I've just come straight from work and I didn't get a chance to take my badge off.
Well, no, keep it on because it says who you are, and it's
yes.
Is this your job at the hospital or
no? This is at the university.
Anglia Ruskin. Yes,
that's
okay.
right. Yes, so I've got 2 badges on. This is my chaplaincy badge.
Yes,
my Muslim chaplain role, and this is for my teaching role. So I'm a lecturer there for education, and I teach or train teachers. I cover special needs units as well in the master's degree, which is on special needs.
Fantastic. But of course, anything on the topic of Islam that comes up in the news, you're always the one that everybody calls for.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? The paparazzi are always after me.
Yes.
It's just, it's getting bigger and bigger. It's not just calling me for politics and things, but I've been doing so many speeches, it's unbelievable.
Yes.
So there's a mayor's event coming up actually in Basildon, and they've invited me to do the speech
there.
Well,
there you are, you see.
Yeah, loads of speeches. It's been huge for speeches this year for me.
Absolutely, and of course we got a new mayor in Basildon. It's David Burton Sampson, very on the topic of diversity. Finger on the pulse with that is Mr. Burton Sampson.
Yeah, now I gathered that because the next event where I'm speaking, where I've been invited as a speaker, is actually an event about Muslims. So Muslims being killed in Bosnia. Yes. And it's a special day, and he's organised that, and he's asked me to speak there.
Now, you mentioned Bosnia. I saw a story on I'll mention the BBC, and I'll credit them. We'll obviously check to see how real this story is, but it looked pretty real from the photographs about Muslims being re-educated in China. Of course, we know that it's a communist regime there, and it seems like they're not taking too kindly to their Muslims over there, and even photographs showing mosques being destroyed.
That's very sad.
This is frightening, isn't it?
I mean, something similar like that has happened in other areas as well.
Do you think this is the terrorist incidents that we keep seeing in the world, and since 9/11 it's all coming from that?
Yes, I mean, on the whole, Islamophobia is in the whole world, isn't it? And countries have got hate against Muslims everywhere. It wasn't too long ago that there were lots of Buddhists killing Muslims as well. Rohingya and all those areas were really badly affected. So, we've got all of that going on. A lot of it is hidden, actually. A lot of it only Muslims know is happening.
Why would they want to wipe them out, though, in China? Why would they want to destroy the mosques?
Well, it's a communist country, and they just want,
everybody to think the same way.
It's all about politics in the end. The politicians that are ruling, they have their own set ways. They want everything to abide by their laws and want their countries in a certain way without interference from any other, opposing conflicts and things, and that's why it all happens. It all boils down to the politics of the country in the end.
Yeah.
That's what I feel anyway.
Well, I'm glad you've come on to the subject of politics.
That was deliberate.
Because obviously we're in this business with selecting a new Prime Minister, or rather they are selecting a Prime Minister. We're not selecting
We don't really
him.
have a say,
We don't have a say in this, which brings us on the fact that you were on another nearby radio station just yesterday morning talking about this very subject, because obviously the man getting the most votes in this leadership contest is Boris Johnson, and he is somebody you have actually met.
I have met him, and I didn't really think very highly of him when I did meet him. I thought he was very strange, actually. So he introduced himself as he's a mad professor.
He introduced himself to you as
a mad professor. And it wasn't just me, it was a whole load of people all gathered around him to speak to him. It was a whole circle of us.
Right.
And he said, "I'm a mad professor," and then he bursted out laughing. And I just remember...
And no one else did?
No, and everyone else thought, "Oh, is that funny?"
Yeah.
And the whole circle just got wider. It was hilarious. The whole circle just stepped away from him.
Right.
And then some of them left because they thought, "Oh, I don't think we want to talk to him." because this was in the context of Buckingham Palace, where there were very high, posh dignitaries there. And everybody just thought that was a bit of an abrupt, flippant comment.
Yes.
And at a place like that, where you just come out with something like that, it just didn't go.
Perhaps a bit Trump-esque.
Yes, very. He does remind me of Trump, his hair as well.
Yes. And of course, we've had a visit, haven't we, from the US president?
Yes,
very
we have.
recently,
yes.
which did go rather well, apart from a certain leader of the opposition who chose to be at a rather dour rally, which looked like a student rally, and I don't think that was indeed at all courteous, behaving in that manner.
Yes.
Boris Johnson, though, you didn't rate him very highly. However, there is always a however, he's getting the most votes. Why do you think that is?
Well, he is the most popular, really, out of everybody. His buffoonery has got him far, and he's an opportunist that shows views that he thinks will make him popular, and they do. We already know, when he made
one
the
of those was
comment.
letterboxes and what was it?
Letterboxes and what did he call them?
I can't remember what the other thing was.
But
now.
it was to do with the burqa. That got him a lot of attention, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
That comment, and he never apologised for that. So he's not rated very highly amongst the Muslims.
Does he have a point, though?
What everybody has a point of view. Everybody does.
Does he have a point of view?
He
We've
does have a point
discussed it
of
on
view,
this
but
show before, haven't we? We like to see people's faces.
Yes.
I like to see your face
Yes.
as I'm looking at you.
Yes.
And yours is it's the niqab, isn't it? We call
Yes,
it the
that's
niqab
correct.
rather than the hijab.
Yes, and someone in his position, I feel, shouldn't make jokes like that, because
No.
he's no ordinary person. He is the future Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So for him, he can't speak his mind. You have to be diplomatic in a lot of ways. You wouldn't have heard Theresa May, for example, saying something like that. She was quite civilised.
Of course,
you
yes.
see. So I think that when you are in positions of trust and you're leading the country, okay, you have your own opinion, but keep them at home.
Right.
You cannot afford to say them out in public like that. And he is actually quite well known for being too outspoken with his comments. I mean, it was mentioned on the programme on Tuesday that words have consequences, to which he just stayed quiet. He doesn't apologise.
He did seem quieter than usual on that programme. I want to talk some more about that programme in a moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's no continuity in what he says, because one minute, he was saying Brexit's definitely going ahead. And the next minute he said maybe. But
Theresa May said that, didn't she?
She did. I feel sorry for Theresa May. I mean, I've met Theresa May as well at the same place where I met Boris.
And how did you find
I
Theresa
thought she
May?
was lovely, and she was very open with her feelings. She said that women are oppressed. She said she is oppressed. She said Parliament is full of men.
It is, isn't it? Mostly
Yes.
men. Women are coming more to the fore now. But let's break for travel, and I'll see if I can think of that other word as well that went with letterboxes. Because it was rather inflammatory, wasn't it? And he won't be able to do that if he does become PM. Drive Time with Roz on a Thursday. It's Drive Time on a Thursday. My guest in this hour is Sidra Naeem. She is a Muslim chaplain at the Anglia Ruskin University. She's also a lecturer, and she also is the chaplain at Basildon Hospital. So you do get around, apart from organising all these interfaith events that we know about, and all the radio appearances, trips to Buckingham Palace, and you've had another one of those, haven't you, to the garden party?
Very exciting.
Was it good?
Absolutely brilliant. I haven't got over it yet. I was just in the newspapers this week, actually.
You were in the newspapers this week.
Essex Chronicle. Took them
Again.
3 weeks to put it in there, but they did in the end themselves, without me complaining this time.
Right. And you met... I saw some pictures of Camilla Parker Bowles, or the what do we call her now? The Princess of...
Is it Duchess of Kent?
Duchess of Kent,
I
yes.
think so. Or Cornwall, is it?
Duchess of Cornwall, that's right.
Yes, I met Prince Charles, and I met Princess Anne as well. I met Princess Anne, Prince Charles, and Camilla. I was actually chosen by the guards with the big top hats on and the long tail coats.
Oh, yes.
To go and have a conversation with her, which was really good.
And what did she say to you?
Well, I actually said to her, I said, hello, pleased to meet you. And then I said to her, I met you last year when I came to Buckingham Palace last year. And she goes, oh, did you really? And then I explained to her when I went and everything. And then she said, oh, yes. I remember, she said. Shook her hand, and it was really nice. She was very pleasant.
Hello. Sorry. Perfect, isn't it? Not too hot. Oh, did you go? You were here last year.
I came to the Commonwealth
last
year, and I met you then.
That's right.
Yes.
Oh, it's nice to see you.
Yes, you as well. Thank you so much for having me.
It's lovely to see you. It's very nice to see you. Hello. How are you?
I guess she gets to meet so many people. It's probably very difficult to remember everybody.
It is difficult to remember everyone, but I think I do stick out though, don't I? Because I'm the only one who has a headscarf on, and I'm pretty sure that's why the guards chose me to go and see her, because all the people that got chosen to see her were different in some way, which is really interesting.
Diverse.
So they were different. Like there was somebody in a wheelchair who they put forward to see her. I was obviously different because I had a hijab on. There was another man who was dressed in his national dress. So he was Asian, and he was wearing a very elaborate brown and green top. Which was ethnic, to his country. So he got chosen. So I noticed the people that they chose were people who stuck out from the crowd.
To show diversity, obviously, that way.
Yes, because otherwise, how many are they going to choose? There were 3,000 people there that day, we were told. And, they can't choose everybody to meet all these dignitaries. So then they have to choose the ones which stick out from the crowd. So I was really lucky. And, it was amazing, actually. It really is amazing. And I was right there. They put me in the front row. And I was right there. And she came across. And then I was in the front row again when Prince Charles went past as well.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah. So you enjoyed your day out?
It was brilliant. The day was beautiful. It was just such a wonderful day that day.
You had the good weather.
The weather
wasn't it? Not like it's been recently.
No, the weather could not have been any better. And we just had such a wonderful time. The band was playing. Then we walked around the gardens, looked at all the river and all the other artifacts that are in the garden. The Queen's Conservatory was there with the chairs inside. Had some photos done on the balcony. This time my husband was with me.
Right.
The last time he wasn't allowed to come, but this time he was.
Well, that's good. Did he enjoy it too?
He loved it. He was more excited than me.
Because your husband's a doctor, isn't he? We will say that as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never seen my husband so excited before.
Yes.
And he was actually sitting in the car before I was, and normally...
What's his name?
Dr. Naeem.
Dr. Naeem, that's all we're going to know. Dr. Naeem, hello this evening from the Gateway Studio, and well done.
I don't think he's had a hello before.
Well, he's going to get one tonight, and and thanks for supporting your wife, Sidra, who does such a lot, doesn't she?
Yes.
She deserves a big hug when she gets home.
Yeah, he does support me a lot. I don't think I'd be doing as much as I am if I didn't have his support, to be honest with you. Because most husbands would say, get home and cook the dinner and all the rest. Well, I do that as well, but I do everything else as well.
Yes.
But he enjoys it because look at the amount of people he meets.
Yes. Does he ever cook for you?
Of course, yes. Yeah. When I'm not in, and he's home than he does. Yes, he does help in the kitchen. He likes eating.
Don't we all?
Yeah, he loves his food, and he does like cooking, which is really good. So yeah, we help each other in the kitchen.
Now I'm going to have to come round to your house. I'm eating far too many takeaways, I think, at the moment. So you enjoyed the day out at Buckingham Palace. He enjoyed it. Your husband enjoyed it as well. And if you've got the strongest memory from that day, what would that memory be?
Definitely meeting Camilla and her recognising me. That was the biggest memory.
Yes.
Which was the same kind of league as when I met the Queen and she already knew me.
Yeah.
It was like that.
Recognition.
Recognition. It was really nice, and everybody was dressed wonderfully, and It reminded me of, a royal wedding. When you see the royal wedding on the television.
Yes.
It's exactly like that. It reminded me.
We've come round to the first anniversary of that, haven't we, with Meghan and Harry? It's gone so quickly.
Yeah, they've got a baby already, haven't they?
Yes, I know.
He's so cute. He looks like Harry, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, Archie looks like Harry, I reckon.
Yes, I mean, we had an issue with that with race, didn't we, that's come into it, which is very sad,
She's had a bad press, hasn't she, Poor thing.
But I do think that the presenter Danny Baker did put his foot in it somewhat, posting that picture, which rather suggestive, and I must say, a picture of a chimpanzee, not very nice thing to do. And I can't understand how he thought that would be funny.
Yeah, I think sometimes, like we were talking about Boris Johnson, a joke is a joke, but when you do it in public and on social media, and when you're in positions of trust, then it really doesn't go. I think that people
letterboxes and bank robbers fell flat on its face as well.
I think sometimes when you're in positions like that, you can't speak your mind, and you need to be a bit more diplomatic, really, about what you say.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, it's 28 minutes past 5 o'clock in the evening. Sidra is going to be my guest for quite some time this evening because we got bags to talk about. Sidra Naeem is my guest in the studio with me. We're talking about Islam. We've been chatting about China and their efforts to try and, it almost seems like, curb Islam. We've talked about your trip to Buckingham Palace. We've talked about the leadership race. What we haven't talked about, that you did mention on that other radio station, was that programme on the television on Tuesday night, where all the leaders that were there, Sajid Javid, we saw Michael Gove, Jeremy Hunt, Boris Johnson, and was that it? Rory Stewart was still there then,
there were 5,
wasn't he? There were 5. Did you think that programme was fair?
I think they all got an opportunity to speak, but they did speak over each other.
Yeah.
There was a lot of interruption going on, wasn't there?
Yes.
And it was beginning to get heated up. But the best bit that I liked the best, and I thought was quite funny, was at the end when the teenager came on. And she had to choose one person, and she said they were all useless. And I agreed with that one, because I didn't think any of them were fit for Parliament, to be honest with you.
Yes, and I know it was done for show, for our benefit. I don't think it was particularly well organised, quite honestly, when what you say there, they were all talking over one another. But then I had to ask the question, why were people on the screen asking them these questions? This isn't a public vote.
It isn't a public vote. To be honest with you, it was a television show to create, interest, and the ratings go sky high with programs like this, don't they? So many people tuned in.
I think that really is key, and what you've just hit upon there is it. But I mean, it's turned out, and this is from the Telegraph, and I've been hearing it across radio stations this morning, that the BBC's debate is turned into a shambles because an alleged anti-Semitic imam appeared on that programme?
Well, I saw the one from Bristol who appeared on there.
That's the gentleman we're talking about.
And I only heard the bit where he questioned Boris about the letterbox and the niqab.
Yes.
That's the only bit I heard.
Bit loaded, right? An anti-Semitic imam, which made me want to look into it more. And the other one, perhaps even more annoying as well, and even more questionable, a Labour staffer was allowed to grill the Tory leadership hopefuls live on air. So Abdullah Patel was the imam from Bristol we're talking about, asked Boris Johnson if his remarks on Islam had consequences. That was the words, those were the words he used, I quote, had consequences.
Yes.
But the imam's Twitter account was switched off prior to that programme, so you couldn't find him on Twitter. It was switched on the day afterwards, and it revealed a number of controversial posts, including claiming the abuse of Jews was being, I quote again, abused by the right. Close quote. To further and this is possibly to further a political agenda. Meanwhile, the man who asked the last question was Aman Thacker. He was a man hired by Labour HQ as a legal assistant back in 2018, and who stood for election for Southwark Council in the same year. That's according to somebody called Guido Fawkes. Right. So, the BBC with these loaded people, it's not such a random pick that you might think.
Yes, I did wonder, actually, the people they had on there, did the BBC choose them themselves, or did they come forward themselves?
Well, this does make me wonder, but David Davis, the former Brexit secretary, has also appeared on BBC Radio on the Today programme, and he's complained about Boris bashing.
Yes.
Which there seemed to be this London-centric attitude where it's Remain, very much a Remain in the capital, but obviously go north of Watford, it's a completely different picture with when we're talking about Brexit and what's going on with that and what Boris has said, some of the things we've been talking about. But I wanted to make that quite clear about this programme the other day being a little bit of a shambles and, I don't think very balanced, which is something we try to do here.
Amusement, isn't it, for everybody?
Yeah.
They haven't had another one anywhere after that, have they?
No, and I'd be very interesting to see, what happens with Question Time tonight.
Yes, that will be interesting. Yeah, definitely.
Because and who they have in their audience for that as well. Yeah. BBC. Yeah. Because the guy that asked the question, the second guy, it might as just as well, as far as I'm concerned, have been Jeremy Corbyn speaking. Right. Are you going to call a general election to Boris? First thing you're going to do, you're going to call a general
Obviously,
election?
Jeremy's going to say, yes, we need one, isn't he? Because he wants to get in.
Yes.
I've met Jeremy Corbyn as well. He was a nice man.
But then you say that of everybody.
Well, I didn't about Boris, did I?
Well, you said he was a bit like a mad professor, but then that's how he introduced himself to you.
He did, but he was strange. So I didn't gel with him, to be honest with you.
Yes.
But Jeremy Corbyn was a nice man. He was very gentle in his mannerism. He seemed quite educated the way he spoke. He was a nice man, and he was interested in me.
Yeah.
That's the main key for me. When I speak to somebody,
they're genuinely interested?
Are they interested in who I am and what I do? And do they speak to me about me?
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas Boris was not interested in anybody but himself.
Right.
He had very, very weak social skills. He lacked warmth. He had poor interpersonal skills. He didn't seem interested in learning about who I was. Whereas Theresa May, on the other hand, who was in the same Buckingham Palace, same event, was interested in who I was and asked me lots of questions about myself. So there's a big difference.
In character and personality there between the two.
Yes.
The outgoing PM and possibly the new, the way the results are standing with this vote at the moment.
Yes, and again, Jeremy Corbyn, he was interested. He wanted to know all about chaplaincy. He wanted to know, am I a chaplain for the prison or a hospital or a university?
Yeah.
He wanted to know lots of things about me, and that is basically how I judge characters, really, who I don't know, in high positions.
Yes.
That's how I actually judge. What are they like? Are they warm? Are they loving? Are they caring people? Because they're the ones who have to lead the communities.
Yes.
England, and they need to be.
Well, there's also the Boris gaffe, isn't there, with Nazanin, the girl that's being held.
Yes.
Yes, and he said something that perhaps he shouldn't.
Yes.
Like you said, and she's currently being detained.
Yeah, he's not diplomatic, is he? With what he says, he just comes out with what is in his mind. Whereas I think in a position of trust,
on the tip of the tongue,
responsibility,
that moment, heat of the moment.
Yeah, he's like Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is like that. He just says it, and then afterwards he doesn't even apologise. Whatever consequence those words mean, they don't take the blame for it or responsibility.
Well, we'll talk about the Trump visit in a few moments' time. It's drive time for a Thursday, 10 minutes away from 6 o'clock. We'll have a complete roundup of the day's news at 6. My guest, Sidra Naeem, Muslim chaplain from the Anglia Ruskin University, and other things as well. I won't run through the list because there's too many things you get up to. One of those is helping the homeless, which we must chat about as well. We've been talking about the debate on Tuesday evening. I think that it was loaded. I think other people and the Daily Telegraph has suggested it was loaded as well and not balanced. We will see what happens with question time tonight, if somebody even asks that question on the programme. So if we're watching our telly tonight, question time will be very, very interesting, I'm sure. Anyway, back to today, and some of the things that you want to talk about, obviously, is some of the interfaith events that you get up to, and there must be some information that's coming up for events through the summer.
Yes, first of all, during Ramadan, which was our month of fasting.
Oh yes, how did that go? Yes.
It was really good. We did so many interfaith activities within Ramadan. So there was one event where it was an interfaith fast-breaking event.
Yeah.
So we invited all the dignitaries to come, the mayor and everybody, to come and open their fast at the local mosque, which was really, really nice. So they all came to us. And then the synagogue, our local synagogue, they invited us, all of us, Muslim community, to come and open their fast there, which was brilliant. They had actually hired a chef for that day to make Asian food. And we all went there, and that really sticks out in my mind. It was really, really nice.
So all sort of faiths coming together, really, for this.
Yes, lots of bonding going on in Ramadan. There was lots and lots of really, really good activities going on. So that's what was going on in Ramadan. Then we had Eid. Yeah. And we had a massive Eid party at the local mosque. Again, we had dignitaries coming in. I did a show for the first time there with children. And the show was how Eid is celebrated in different countries. And all the children dressed up in traditional costumes. So we had a Spanish flamenco dancer, and we had an Indian person dressed up in a turban, all the different countries, and they all came on the stage with music, and they all explained how Eid is celebrated in their countries. And
what kind of music did you have there?
It wasn't
George Michael, was it?
No, because it was traditional music to each country.
So I know what you like.
So for Spain, there was the maracas and everything.
Yes.
For Mexican, we had the pan pipes. For England, we had the national anthem. So for each country, it was traditional music for that country with a flag as well.
Again, really diverse and probably very spectacular as well.
It was really good. I dressed up as a Spanish girl as well, which shocked everybody at the mosque, because they've never seen me like that before.
Oh gosh!
I mean, I already dress up like that at work when we do, and at school.
You must share some pictures at some point.
I will do. I'll put them on with the radio show. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that was a bit of a shock. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, what's happened to you?" Because I've never done that in the mosque before. Whereas in my last job as well in school, we'd have fancy dress days and we'd have World Book days, and I would always dress up. And at the university, we have diversity university days. But here it wasn't norm, so they'd not seen me like that. So that was a bit of a shock.
And for the benefit of our listener, we've got Ramadan, which is fasting, and then Eid follows it, doesn't it?
Yes.
And what is Eid for the benefit of our listeners?
Eid is the celebration which marks the end of the fasting month.
Yeah.
The fasting is so that we can understand how the poor feel and then help them. And we carry on basically what Jesus did, where he fasted 40 days in Lent, and Moses fasted 40 days before receiving the Ten Commandments. We carry that on, except for us it's 30 days, and it's daylight hours only.
Which, this time of the year, daylight hours are longer than the nighttime hours. That must be quite a difficult task to achieve.
In this part of the world.
Do you ever feel unwell with that, though?
No, I think the key is definitely to wake up and have a big breakfast, which is what you're supposed to do.
But then before daylight, that's before 4 o'clock in the morning, isn't it?
It was. It was approximately 2:45-ish in the morning. But our body clocks got used to it. By the second, third day, I was into the routine. So we have a big meal, a cooked breakfast, a heavy one. And then we don't miss out our lunch. Basically, that's enough to make us feel hungry and feel how the poor feel. And then evening, we would open up our fast with a big meal.
Yeah.
So,
but then the fast, obviously through the day, and then sun goes down about 8:30, 8:45, 9 o'clock this time of the year, isn't it? So you've got to wait until late in the evening before you can actually have your evening meal.
Yes, we get busy at about 7:30 because I used to start cooking away in the kitchen.
Smelling it, when you feel hungry.
But that was the test, really, isn't it? And it really works because it really does put you in the shoes of the poor, and then you end up really helping them. The amount of charity which Muslims give in that month is quite amazing.
Do you really think that you need to feel that, the issue there, to be able to understand what the poor go through with food? Do you need to do that and go through that 100%.
I feel you truly understand how a person feels with any situation unless you're in that situation yourself. I was doing a talk today with a school, and I was giving them the example of bullies. Bullies don't know what it feels like when they bully somebody.
Correct.
Until they are bullied, and then all of a sudden they realise that this is how it feels like.
Yeah.
And then they know.
Well, bullies only normally get their comeuppance when somebody bigger comes along, bigger than them. Because they're always bullying somebody smaller, aren't they? All the time. They'll never pick on somebody the same size as them or the same strength of them.
Yes. So to truly understand how a person feels, especially with food. In this country, we have so much food. Even the homeless, they're not totally homeless like you would get in Africa, in some of the African parts. They do still have food. They have social security and things like that, and food banks everywhere. It's not the same. So to truly understand how a poor person feels, you go into their shoes and feel what they feel.
Yes.
And it develops empathy, sympathy.
And this you've gained from doing that yourself?
Oh, yes. Self-restraint, anger management skills. It's not just fasting off
you ever get
the
angry?
Stomach.
You never get angry?
Well, of course, everybody does. That's part of human nature, isn't it? But obviously, you don't see me in that role here. Whenever you see me, I'm always smiling and laughing.
Of course.
And happy. But everybody gets angry. The way they show it is different, isn't it? Some people will shout about and hit the roof, and some people will get introverted and not say a word when they're angry. So there are so many types of anger, ways you can exhibit anger. But fasting helps with all of that. You haven't got the energy to be angry.
Well, of course not. So we'll have a look at the main news headlines at 6 o'clock. You're going to stay into the next hour?
I will do if you need me.
Well, that would be great. I mean, there are things I'm sure we can talk about, including, we haven't mentioned the president's visit.
Oh, yes.
Donald Trump, your favourite. Okay, we'll chat about him in the next hour. We've my guest Sidra Naeem staying into this hour of Drive Time with Roz, and that song you need to go. We were talking about anger in the last hour of the show, and well, you said everybody gets angry. I guess it's how you manage it, though, isn't it? And
That's
how you
what
deal
it
with
is.
it, and how you
Yes.
stay calm.
Yes, and certain people will aggravate you more and make you angry,
Yes.
and certain people you don't get angry with as well. So
Yeah.
it depends who you're hanging around with.
I think some people, deliberately, twist the knife. I think they got
They
a habit
do.
of
Yeah.
wanting to be noticed.
They're like
and
entertainment.
yes, that's and especially those that play one off against another,
Yes.
and then they sit back and spectate and watch it all
Yes.
kicking off.
Yes.
Which can be rather annoying. Somebody who does make people kick off in a big way. We've seen some protests recently where the president's visit, Donald Trump, was here last month, or the beginning of this month actually, around my birthday time. And wow, what a birthday present that was. I do think it was a rather good visit. It was a state visit. He was entertained by Her Majesty the Queen.
Yes.
He was also entertained by Theresa May.
Yes.
And but certain people weren't happy about it. One of whom was
Yes.
Muslim.
Yes, well, he
Sadiq
the moment
Khan.
he came, he aggravated people, didn't
Yeah.
he? So he came out with some racist comment, which he didn't need to make, did he?
Now this was the
Sadiq Khan.
Sadiq Khan made a comment, or Donald Trump?
Donald Trump made
Well,
a
he
comment.
made a comment from the plane, didn't something about Sadiq Khan being, I quote, a stone cold loser, unquote.
Yeah, something like that. But it was classed as racism, actually, in the newspapers and everywhere, because why would he have picked on him out of everybody? And it was uncalled for, really. Why did he need to say that? Because Sadiq Khan, he hadn't even met at that stage, and didn't even know him.
But then Sadiq Khan has kind of snubbed him, hasn't he?
Well, don't blame him.
I guess with neither giving ground,
Yes.
when they're not going to ever get over or get past this situation, because I think Sadiq Khan considers Donald Trump racist before he's even set a foot on British soil. The protests that take place in London with that Trump balloon thing.
Yes.
I mean, what do you think of that? Do you think that's funny, or do you think that's offensive? Because
You know what I feel? I feel that nowadays the politicians are not respected anymore.
Yeah.
Now, I remember Thatcher's days very
But I
well.
see politicians there not being respectful, Sidra. I mean, I have to say, the guy's flown in. It's a state visit, and the actions of Jeremy Corbyn at his, pathetic little demo,
Yes.
which Mr. Trump described as fake news. I thought that was rather amusing.
Yes.
And Sadiq Khan also seemed to be supporting that.
Yes.
It's not the kind of way
Yes.
to behave, is it,
Yes.
for a visiting diplomat?
Also, I think there's a lot of policies around. It's like, now we have spoken about this before, racism. You can't even say anything to anybody anymore. We talked about this on the telephone with somebody as well. There's too many policies and rules around. So when somebody says something, even if it's a little bit out of turn, there's no tolerance, and it's, oh, they're racist, and oh, they're Islamophobic, and oh, they're this.
Yeah.
Whereas in the olden days, I remember Margaret Thatcher, she used to come out with all sorts, did she not? But everybody still respected her. She wasn't blown all over the newspapers, that she was still the Prime Minister, and she could get away with a lot of things. Whereas nowadays, I think that the leniency is not there.
Do you think that everybody's waiting to jump on a soundbite these
They
days?
are,
Like, you've got the 24-hour news agencies, haven't you, that are broadcasting constantly, rolling news,
Definitely.
and they're looking for these soundbites.
Yeah, the news go out everywhere nowadays, doesn't it? It's all over social media, everything. But also, because of so many policies and rules in place, even if a politician says hello to somebody, it's like, oh, he shouldn't have said hello to so-and-so.
Or he was frowning when he said it, or they had their backs to somebody, and
The respect
they're watching all
is
the
not
body
there.
language.
And it's the same with the poor Queen. I mean, there was all these rumours that she's not going to the christening. Archie's christening. That was all over in the newspapers. Whereas, in the olden days, that would definitely not have happened.
But to be fair to Her Majesty, she's in her 90s, and I know that she's having to ease off some of those pressures now, which, I mean, I'm struggling to do certain things as I approach 60.
I'm sure we'll be the same. I'm sure I'm going to slow down one day as well.
Well, we're all going to have to at some point, hand the reins across to somebody younger with some of the most pressurising jobs. But I don't think one can really blame the Queen for stepping back.
Yeah, so, everything's taken to task, isn't it? Whatever people say. And,
and you've got the younger ones in the royal family coming through now that are taking up, some of those roles.
They are, yes.
So that, looking for sound bites and looking for problems, the Boris Johnson one we spoke about earlier on, and I mean, we could be hearing a lot more from him, that's in a Trump-esque kind of way.
Yes, Spitting Image was another programme which came out.
Oh, I remember that,
and that is, I think, what really started...
Now, that was in Thatcher's era, wasn't it?
It was, and I remember Spitting Image is when it started to... not respect MPs and the Queen and the royal family, because it was all a joke.
But it was satire, wasn't it? It was poking fun.
But then in the end they did ban it, didn't they?
Did they ban it? Oh,
I think so. They closed the show down because it was just over the top. I remember Reagan in there. Do you remember?
I remember Reagan.
Reagan and Thatcher
used to be all caricatures,
weren't
they?
Yeah, they were funny.
But I don't think I didn't think there was anything serious to it. It was satire, and it was it was funny seeing them just doing what they do. I wouldn't have said there was anything offensive about Spitting Image.
Well, the way they they used to take the mick out of all their body features and things, didn't they?
Yes.
Facial features, and over-exaggerate certain parts.
Yes, but I mean, it wasn't just politicians, it was other celebrities as well. And I can remember Paul McCartney being on there.
Yes, there was lots of people on there.
Yes.
Dennis Healy with his big...
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, Michael Jackson was. Dennis Healy with his big furry eyebrows.
That's right, yes, incredible.
Yeah.
Yes, you've taken us back a bit now, talking about Spitting Image. Anyway, we're fast approaching 6:15. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun? We better check those roads and those trains. We'll come straight back with some more. Sidra, my guest this evening. We've got to talk about the homeless as well. We've got to talk about some of those forthcoming interfaith events. And Ros here till 7 with my guest Sidra Naeem, talking about all things Islam. We've got to talk about some of those interfaith events that are possibly coming up this summer, because you've had your Ramadan and Eid celebrations, and it sounded like a great mix of food that you've had there. But we must have some things coming up through the summer, when we actually get a summer, that is.
Yes.
I'm waiting for this weather to improve.
It's very late this year, isn't it?
It
summer,
is.
because I remember this time last year was very hot.
It was, wasn't it?
Yes. I remember it, I haven't used my summer wardrobe yet, hardly.
Chilly.
It is.
The last few nights. So temperatures are expected to rise, we are told, on Saturday to around 24 degrees. So maybe that will see an improvement. But I know from the long-range forecast that there is another low-pressure system hovering out there to take over and probably bring much more rain. So I hope it's not going to wash out any forthcoming cricket match that you might have.
Yes, we've got 2 cricket matches coming up. One will be Chelmsford Mosque against Chelmsford Cathedral.
Right.
And that will be in Chelmsford, and that one is in October, late September, early October. And then we've got one in Havering, which we did last year as well.
Yeah.
That one will be in Romford, and that's in August.
Right,
so I'm
so a bit
really
nearer.
looking forward to those, because they're really great fun. We've just had an interfaith forum on... should religion accommodate changes in society?
Right.
That was very interesting. So we had a big debate on that.
What do you think? As you've touched on that subject, have you seen the story on that Birmingham school and all the hoo-ha there about the LGBT lessons?
Yes. I think that is also a problem with
Because that's
not
mainly
just
Muslim
Muslims,
people, isn't
but
it?
it's Jewish within the Jewish tradition as well, and within Catholicism as well.
Do you think they're right to protest about it?
Well, the problem that we've got is you can't change the government. So if the government says that
You've
that
got to
has
have
be
these
taught,
lessons in school. They've got
then
to
we've
be
got to have them.
part of the curriculum.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
I don't think that can be changed personally. But where you can change is you can yourself at home tell your children what your own viewpoints are, you see. But to change the school system, I'm a teacher and I don't agree with parents tampering in and changing the school system. I think that teachers know far better, and teachers have to follow the rules anyway. So we have a set curriculum, we have a set national curriculum which is set by the government, and even teachers can't pick and choose what they can teach and what they can't teach.
Everybody's different, aren't they? And everybody, how they cope with various issues like, you know, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, all those issues that seem to be, you know, we're more open in our society about it now. So in the Western world we are. A lot of countries in the world aren't. We know that there are some that certainly are that find anything like that abhorrent.
Yes.
And it just we see the cultures from the other countries in our country and the resistance there, and we think, you know, a lot of people will say, well, you're in the Western world now. When in Rome, do as the Romans do, as the old saying goes. Isn't it compromise on both sides, though, perhaps?
Yes, like I said, we have to follow the law of the land. We are not allowed to go against the law, and if the law says whatever we have to do, then we have to do it. So that's a Muslim's take on things generally across the board anyway. But then whatever your own viewpoint is, obviously you can discuss that at home, because there are, to be honest with you, so many things, not just LGBT, which is in schools, which Muslims may not approve of. For example, the sexual reproduction lessons.
Yes.
You know, I personally feel that children are far too young to learn about you know, contraception and all that kind of stuff. It's
well, that's sort of a teenage
overboard.
thing, I would have thought.
It was a teenager thing when we were younger, but nowadays, from the age of year 4, for example, 8 years onwards, they are learning about too much, too early.
A bit too early, isn't it?
Far too early. And the children, believe it or not, because remember I worked in schools, were engaging in intimate sexual relationships at the age of 11, which is far too young, you know.
But then isn't this down to bad parenting?
It's parenting as well, because it's a parent's duty to explain to their own children.
We've got a lot of single parent families now, haven't we? And perhaps absent fathers we hear about a lot these days.
And it is a consequence of all of this, learning about things too early. Then people want to delve into things that they don't know about. It's curiosity, isn't it?
Yeah. So
yes, at the age of 11, do you know, before the children used to go on to secondary school, I used to get a visit from the special needs coordinator from the secondary school. She used to always ask me that question, that can you tell me which one of the children you're handing on to us are sexually active? And I used to have heart attacks.
What question?
Yeah. At first I used to have heart attacks. She goes, you do know this is normal, don't you? And I was like so naive, because I worked in a village school and maybe we were a bit behind the times in there. But I soon came to realise that it was true. So there's so many things in schools which parents would oppose against if they found out their children were learning about it.
Well, if their parents are present, you know, like I say, a lot of single parent families, and the attitude from the parents is something the same as what the children are learning now from those parents, that you know, a woman could have several children from 3 or 4 different fathers, and to them that's normal. And then you've got the children growing up in that household, and then they consider it to be normal.
Yes, exactly.
And so it goes into the next generation.
If we stop them learning about LGBT in school, will they not come across it outside of school? Because it's on EastEnders, it's on the adverts, it's everywhere everywhere on the television. So it's up to parents really to take on board their own morals within their own religions and then explain to the children what is right and what is wrong.
So in the Muslim world, is it one man, one woman?
Well, on the whole, in all the Orthodox religions, so within Judaism, within Christianity, you just have to open the Bible and it talks to you about the Sodom and Gomorrah story. And in there's also Prophet Lot's story and what happened to them, for example, when they engaged in that kind of stuff. So that is what we would take on board. And that's the same in all the Orthodox religions, not just Islam.
Because we see in some countries and third world countries that men will play around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So irrespective of what the religion tells them to do.
Yes, you're not allowed to play around. Obviously, adultery is a very big sin. Adultery is a very big sin in all religions. It still happens, but then that's down to them. We have been given the religion for guidelines and boundaries. If we want to overstep the boundaries, then that's between us and God, really.
It's the disciplines we're talking about here that we're setting ourselves, but of course there's the human nature side of things as well, isn't it? And I mean, if you compare human beings to our animal counterparts, where we do stray, some people do stray, it is really like what goes on in the animal kingdom. It
does, and adultery is more rife nowadays because there's so much free mixing around, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, the more women are going out at night, there's more nightclubs, there's more all the rest going on outside. You're bound to meet someone else who you know may find an attraction towards. There's a lot more interaction nowadays when I think about it.
Well, when you think of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's relationship, she is of mixed race. We now have mixed race in the royal family.
Yes.
But there's two words. One is diversity, the other one is tolerance.
Yes.
And, you know, understanding. I think if we all had the ability to be able to understand more, there'd be less hate in the world.
Definitely, but it is getting better. It definitely is. I mean, for the first time in history, I'm actually beginning to see politicians that are Muslim. So, you know, Sadiq Khan was a big breakthrough when he became mayor. And then we've got the other Sajid Javid as well. He's Muslim and he was right up there, wasn't he? So there is a change already. I can see huge changes. I really can.
And for the better.
For the better. I'm chosen by so many dignitaries to come and give speeches. So many, I can't tell you how many speeches I've given this year. In the churches, in the cathedrals, in the hospitals. There was a International Nurses Day and I was invited to give a speech there and I thought, why me? And then afterwards when I got there, I realised the very first nurse was a Muslim woman.
Right.
And that's why they'd chosen me, but they didn't tell me that at the time. And the mayor was there and she didn't do a speech, but they chose me. So there is a real step forward, I feel, but it's not just that. I think you yourself have to prove you're a good role model. You have to be professional as a Muslim. Sometimes people tell me non-Muslims are racist, they're Islamophobic. Do you know, I have never ever honestly ever come across any racism ever in my life or any Islamophobia or anything. And I honestly believe that that's because I am a nice person. People see me for all the work that I do and they like me. And then they do call me forward to do things. They don't discriminate me in anything. So when people say, oh, they discriminate me, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, well, maybe there's something wrong with you then. Because I don't see that. I honestly don't.
Which is good. 7, my guest Sidra Naeem. And so we're not playing much music tonight, doing a lot of talking though. And to my special guest in the studio, it's Sidra from Anglia Ruskin University. She's the Muslim chaplain and teacher there. And also for Basildon Hospital, helps the homeless, goes to Buckingham Palace, meets all sorts of dignitaries, people I'd like to meet and interview as well. Gosh, you know, just think if we could get the Prime Minister, Boris Boris, Jeremy Corbyn,
Yes.
all the royal family on Gateway just to
We
have
could
a
actually.
chat, have a round-robin discussion.
Yeah.
That would be good. Back to this Thursday evening, and as time's running short, I guess we better run through some other things that we've got to talk about. We've mentioned the Trump visit, we've mentioned China, we've mentioned the royal family and racism, and we're talking about knitting together and the glue that binds communities together. We got Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. We've got baby Archie. You know, he's now of mixed race blood.
He is, yes. He's lovely,
Yes.
actually. I think he's really quite
Yes.
cute. He looks like his dad. I think the mayors all over are doing a wonderful job at the moment.
I'm glad you brought up the mayor
Yes.
because of the story here in the Yellow
Yes.
Advertiser about Basildon's mayor.
Yes, I heard about that. But he's actually invited me to speak at a special Remembering Srebrenica Day
Yeah,
on Thursday, 11th July, and that's here in Basildon Centre.
right.
And it has been 25 years this July since the atrocity at Srebrenica. The Srebrenica massacre is also known as the Srebrenica genocide, targeted more than 8,000 Bosnian Muslims,
Oh, gosh.
many men and boys, in and around the town of Srebrenica during the Bosnian War.
Yes.
So that's what
Long
that's
time
about.
ago now.
And it's a Remembrance Day service, and I will be speaking there straight after the speech from the Mayor of Basildon, and there will be a 1-minute silence and light refreshments. I'm really looking forward to that again. I'm
And
very
that date
pleased.
is when? It's
That date is 11th July.
11th of July.
Yes.
So that's you've been invited by the Mayor of Basildon. That's the new Mayor, we should say, is the Labour councillor David Burton Sampson, who
Yes.
was heckled by a woman. You did get to hear about this
I did,
story,
yes.
shouting the N-word as he raised the rainbow flag outside Basildon Council's offices to mark the beginning of Essex Pride last week. So what do you take on that?
I
mean,
think
is it
that's
disgusting?
sad. I think that's very sad, because there is a new change. Like I said, there are more and more ethnically diverse people coming in to the higher positions, and I feel some people are not ready for that.
Yeah.
Because the change
I would have
is
hoped
happening.
Basildon would be, though.
Yes, I think Basildon is a little bit behind other major cities. For example,
Yeah.
Chelmsford is ready.
You
I
think
Chelmsford is
Basildon's
ready.
still got some way to go?
Yes, I think Brentwood has got a long way to go as well.
Yeah?
I think there's smaller towns, and there is less diversity in the smaller towns, whereas the bigger cities like Chelmsford, I think, have
Yeah.
moved on.
Do you think it's
Definitely.
because those places are mainly made up of white British or...
Yes,
Yeah?
yes, definitely that.
I-
But Chelmsford being the main
I do
capital.
see quite a few Muslims around Basildon. I see lots of ladies with headscarves about, and
I do as well,
Yeah.
but I don't feel they're in the right places.
yes, I've
So-
even met Amelia down at Motivated Minds
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
You know, and we've threatened to have a game of table
Yes.
tennis together.
A lot of Muslims around here in Basildon, they'll keep themselves to themselves. And I feel to make a difference, you have to be in the bigger places, which is things that I do. So
There
why
was
did
one
the mayor
lady
invite
here
me?
who had a racist attack against her. Didn't she have her car attacked?
Oh, yes,
Her home.
she
There
did.
was that incident as well, wasn't there?
There was. That was the day after the Manchester atrocity,
Yes.
and that was here in Basildon, yes.
Yeah.
That was one of my friends. The police did not register that as a racial incident.
Which they should have done, really.
Which they
shouldn't
should have done.
Especially the day after an attack
Yep.
like Manchester.
As soon as I got involved, the next day it's a racial incident, and
Yeah.
it was all over the Mail and the Mail and everything. The Daily Mail, it went out everywhere. So
But
I feel
I've met mayors of different race and colours. I've met, I think, the deputy mayor of Romford, or that the Queen's Theatre in Hornchurch.
yes,
and
the deputy mayor of Romford is black African. Yes, I've met him as well.
I've met him. Very,
Yes.
very nice fellow.
Yes, he is actually one of the first ones that I have met
Yeah,
after hearing about the one in Basildon.
yeah.
Yes.
David Burton Sampson. So we see mayor of Basildon, different colour. We talked about Sadiq Khan already, so change is happening. It's all over, and it's...
Yes, change is happening, and I think that...
but we don't like...
some people are not ready yet, but it's going to take time to get used to it.
People are frightened of things they don't understand.
Yes, exactly, yes. They don't like change, and they've always seen huge dignitaries like that being of a white British background. They're not used to seeing them. Or they think that they should be white British, Yes, that's right, yes. There hasn't been any in the past. Meghan was a big breakthrough for starters, you see.
Yeah.
So,
but if we're asking people of black and ethnic races to integrate, becoming a mayor of a town or a city is integrating, isn't it?
It is.
Get me wrong?
You will find that those people who get to those top positions, they didn't just get there for nothing. They have done huge amounts of work. And I'll tell you something, an Asian or a brown person has to do triple more. That's a well-known fact. I thought you were going to say that. Yeah. To get in the same position as a white British counterpart.
Well, it's a bit like I was hearing earlier about, women have to work harder to be politicians in Parliament. I mean, you said that about Theresa May.
Definitely. And the positions that I go into, it's been a huge amount of work. I have been doing this since 2003. All this hard work that I've been doing. I didn't just get up there from just sitting back in my seat and not doing anything. People see me for what I do. And
was that prompted by 9/11? Because that was only a couple of years earlier, wasn't it?
Definitely, it was prompted by 9/11. 9/11 made me go out and tell people Islam is not like it is. And not all Muslims are terrorists.
Because there was a lot of suspicion at the time, wasn't there?
Yes, and look at me, I'm not a terrorist. And being a woman was the biggest one. I used to get it everywhere. Muslim women are oppressed. So I went out there and I showed people that, look at me, I'm not oppressed. I'm doing everything. So that changed me. 9/11 changed me hugely.
It's incredible, isn't it? The event there, so profound in the effect it's had on people, and it's almost sent you in a situation like you want to help others. Perhaps you wouldn't have done it if it hadn't have been for that event.
Yeah, I mean, we can't change the past to know that. I was always a loving and caring person. I was always, when I remember school, college, I used to always want to do activities. I used to, for example, arrange activities for everybody to go out for dinner. End of the year reunions, I used to arrange those. Or I'd say, come on everybody, let's go to cinema. And I'd arrange the whole trip. So I think I had it in me.
You were the organiser, you were the logistics person there.
Yeah, I was always, when I think about it now, I was always there. In the forefront of everybody doing everything.
The linchpin, sort of at the centre there.
Yes, but the difference is when 9/11 happened, I used all those talents towards religion. Do you see? So that was the difference. I thought, you know what? I've done this before. Why don't I do this? Yeah. To create a good image of Islam. So then I'd start arranging interfaith events, or I'd start arranging other things, and feel so much better for it. When it's to do with your religion, you feel really good. When other people say, oh, well done, that was great. And, it makes you feel really, really good. It inspires you then to do more and more. And that's what my life's been like. I've been inspired by so many people. Even now, I get text messages from people and I just break down and cry because they're just so lovely. Somebody said to me the other day, God sent you from up above to help our community. And I thought, oh my God.
That's quite a statement, isn't it?
It was. Yes. So many like that I can't even explain. And it breaks me down. It really does. And every time I feel down about something else really big happens. And it's interesting because then I get back up again. I lift myself up again and I get energised again. It's like a battery being recharged.
Do you think there'll come a day where you'll stop?
At the moment, I can say no to that because things are getting bigger and better. Watch this space is all I can say at the moment.
So there is something else in the pipeline.
There's something really big in the pipeline and it's confidential. But when that gets out, it's going to be really big.
Very, very interesting. My guest Sidra Naeem here. We're talking Islam and this diversity event that you're at in Basildon next month with the Mayor David Burton Sampson, possibly part of Basildon's 70th birthday celebrations as well, because we as a town are 70 years old this year and there's a lot going on. One of the things happening in the summer, when we get a bit of good weather, hopefully later on July, August time, Gateway's hired a bus which is going to tour around the town with people jumping on and off that bus and conducting interviews on the bus. Hopefully we might even be able to encourage you to be one of those passengers on that specially branded bus.
That's interesting.
You have an invite.
Oh, lovely. I will definitely try and come to that.
Yeah, we'll sort you out with a date for that, and we'll see if you can get down and join us.
Yes, I helped the previous mayor cut the cake. There was a big 70th anniversary.
Yes, Councillor David Dadds.
Yes, and I had a photo done with him. I was in the newspaper with that one. Yes. I went to his civic service as well. He invited me to his civic service. I'm going to another civic service for the chair of Essex County Council soon, which is a really posh one at the race course, and that one is very posh people, posh dresses and all the rest. So I'm looking forward to that. That's my third year I've been invited to that.
Have you chosen your outfit already?
I will probably use one of the ones I have been using for everything else. I can't just wear a dress once, can I? I've got to.
Oh, a lot of us do.
Yeah, well, I think there'd be too much then. In my life at the moment, I'd be buying a new dress every week. Might wear the one that I bought for the garden party there, because nobody else has seen it apart from the royal family. So
that's it for another month. You'll come back and join us again soon. I'm sure there'll be lots more to talk about
lots.
on the radio. And fantastic stuff. Well, Sidra Naeem, the Muslim chaplain from Anglia Ruskin University, Basildon Hospital, and so many different things. Thanks for being such a splendid guest on Drive Time today, and we'll see you next month.
See you next month.